Everybody at some point in their life gets or will need medical treatment. Most people, however, are not financially stable enough to afford it. Why is it that medical bills are so astronomical? The cost of medical treatment is way too much. People go to the doctors, the hospital, even the dentist to get help, but it's just too expensive. Even people with insurance struggle to pay their bills because healthcare companies make their prices so ridiculous that people struggle to afford it. People who may need some form of medical treatment fear going to get it because they know that they cannot afford it. The average person struggles to find money to pay their own bills. Medical bills, on top of life necessities such as food, housing, clothing, are all almost impossible to be able to afford in today's world as it is. I understand that doctors, nurses, and all medical personnel need to make money, but the prices that these companies are charging are ridiculous. Insurance companies, on average, pay 50% or less of what hospitals bill them. The hospitals, in turn, bill the insurance companies as much as possible for every last item and every last minute. They then double the price on many items to ensure they are paid enough to cover the expense, and also add on the balance of other patients who do not pay their bills. To cover these charges, insurance companies then increase a person's insurance premium. A big issue is that most insurance companies are for-profit organizations, so they do very little to stop the increasing costs implied by the healthcare providers. Instead, they pass the costs on to consumers through premiums and in turn have increased revenue and increased profit. Healthcare providers will come after you for bills that your insurance company will not pay, or for care rendered by a doctor who is not in your insurance plan. The issue with this situation is that you are required to pay the full rate just as it is billed to your insurance company. When the patient is unable to pay for those services rendered, it can also show up on one's credit score, following them around for an extended period of time. It can also lead to financial ruin when the bills are too large. This can lead to filing for bankruptcy and having to restart your life all over again. While it is true that some companies will work with you on payment plans or even give you discounts, that's not always the case. I personally had an emergency surgery last fall, and I was sent a bill of over $4,800 just for part of the surgery. I had contacted the company and asked why the insurance company did not cover it, only to realize the provider of the services was not covered under my insurance plan. The company then went on to advise me that if my insurance company would not cover it, I would be liable for the $4,800 bill in full. The only thing they would be willing to do is set up a payment plan. About a month later, I got an explanation of benefits advising that the insurance company settled with the provider for just $800. That's 17% of what I would have had to pay. People are scared to go to the hospital due to the fear of medical bills and their financial situation. Paying for your mortgage, electricity, heating, air conditioning, phone bills, cable, food, clothing, all cost enough a month as it is. And some people struggle to put the money together for those. Having to pay for astronomical medical bills on top of that will only make their financial situation worse. They know this and will choose to not go and see a doctor, even if they think that they have to, all because they don't want to have to pay. This does not help anyone. People should not be afraid to go to the doctor or hospital because they are not financially stable enough to afford it. Healthcare should be affordable for the average employed person, and it is simply not at all. While researching this topic, I came across an article written by Monica Chin in the New York Post that states 1 in 4 Americans refuse medical care because they cannot afford it. In the year 2017, 1 in 4 families had to turn down medical care because the cost was too high and they could not afford it. Older millennials between the ages of 27 and 36 have it the worst, and they were the most likely to do this. 32% of the people in that age group shun medical care because they can't afford it to pay it. The article by Ching goes on to claim that 11.3% of Americans don't have insurance. But that's just a small part of all of this. Even for families with insurance, the costs are still ridiculously deep. In 2015, workers ended up paying an average of about $1,300 out of pocket before even meeting their deductibles. Even after surpassing their deductibles, workers paid an average copay of $24 for primary care office visits, $37 for specialty care office visits, and $308 just for hospital admission. To put it in simple terms, all of these prices are absolutely ridiculous. And on top of all the other monthly necessities and bills that have to be paid, it's almost impossible to be able to afford medical care. As I previously stated above, everybody at some point in their life will get or will end up needing medical treatment. Every single person in the world is in different financial situations, but no matter what their financial situation may be, the cost for medical services and treatment is way more than it should be. The average employed person should have no problem paying their bills, but yet they do. If you ask me, the price of medical services almost does more harm on the people they be helping than good. So let me leave you with this. The cost of medical bills are too much. Change my mind.